Hello, you are listening to the Play Squad Pod. I am here, I am Katie, and each week I go through the topics of conversation that have been alive with my squad this week. This week I have got a lovely, lovely lady here to chat, Caroline, who is actually part of the Thrive Together 360 squad at the moment. And we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about her journey, where she was, where she is, but also some hints and tips from Caroline, because I think whilst I can talk about things and in terms of how I am liaising with clients, the advice that I'm giving them, I think sometimes there is nothing better than hearing it from somebody who is actually on the journey that you are going through right at this moment in time. So, hello, Caroline. How are you doing?
Hi. Good, thank you. Very well, yeah.
We've just been talking about how glorious the weather is, looking out the window. We are sat here in a cloud in Brighton at the moment. It is fabulous, but it's always a brighter day whenever I have a chat with Caroline. Quite often we will catch up at the end of sessions, and the reason I wanted Caroline to come onto the podcast was we always have a good natter and we always end up chatting about things in terms of the changes that she has been making, and there are always pearls of wisdom that come out of her mouth. So I thought no better person to get on the podcast than Caroline. What I want to do first off is just kind of get an idea, because there'll be people listening to this who have no idea who you are. So just wanted to get a bit of a sense of kind of a bit of background about yourself, where you were, what life was like, and kind of, I suppose, what the main reasons were that you started thinking about working with a personal trainer. I was going to say a year ago, but it might have been longer than that. I don't know how long kind of the thoughts were formulating in your mind. So, Caroline, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So a year ago, I'd been retired for about 18 months from a high pressure job in the NHS. And I'm fairly active. I did Pilates, did a lot of walking, had stopped cycling, which I'd done a lot previously. And I was really aware that I didn't feel strong in my body. And I was thinking about going to the gym, but I wasn't sure that the gym was something for me. I had, when I was much younger, gone to the gym, but I felt, not a place for older women and that kind of thing. So I spent about, a few months thinking, how am I going to do this? Looking at various things, having read quite a lot of research about strength training for older adults, or particularly peri and postmenopausal women, and I felt fairly, how would I describe it? It's slightly apathetic and disengaged with it all, but I knew I wanted to do something, and that's how I came eventually, right, a personal trainer. I need some structure to get me going. I think at first I thought I'd only do it for a few months, but how things have changed over the last year.
Do you know what? Saying that in terms of thinking that you would do it for a few months, that's exactly what I was like when I started working with a personal trainer. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a 12-week program. Then what I will do is, and I remember thinking this, I was like, I'll do this 12-week program, and then I will just go back to living life how I'd lived it prior to those 12 weeks. And it didn't actually take me that long within kind of starting working with a PT to kind of go, oh, this isn't something that I just do for a bit and then I just go back to what I've been doing. But it's so interesting how many people, when they are kind of first thinking about it, like, I'll do it for like 6, 10, 8, 12 weeks, whatever it might be, and then I'll be done. And I think that's probably because of the way that so much personal training and coaching is marketed, in terms of an 8-week program, a 12-week program, and you kind of have it in your mind, I'll do it for a bit and then I'll just revert to what I was doing before. If I pick up on something that you just said, you weren't sure that the gym was for you. Yeah. Why was that?
I suppose I'd thought of it more as, particularly strength training, something that men do with very big muscles, and something that younger people do. So I just felt I didn't fit into the demographic that would, was, I hadn't been a gym bunny all my life. I didn't look right, and I was quite intimidated by it, I guess.
So intimidated by the environment, those that might be going there already, and you just didn't feel like it was a space and a place for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that you hear so often from people. Is just like, it just doesn't feel like a space for me. I can't see myself being there, especially as you get older. You just like, it's not what you see on the ads and the marketing, the communications for gyms. It's not what you see in social media. It's not
exactly
what you expect a gym space and place to be. And thinking about to kind of a year ago or kind of slightly before that, where were you kind of physically and mentally? You've mentioned kind of you would get out on your bike, but that had maybe fallen by the wayside a little bit, and you feeling a little bit apathetic. But if you kind of were to describe yourself 12 months ago, what sort of words would you use to describe yourself?
I suppose the words I'd use is I felt disorganized and directionless. I felt that sort of, whilst I loved retirement, I almost felt my life was passing me by, and I was watching it, and spending a lot of time wasting my time with, social media, reading the newspaper, whatever. I just felt unmotivated, would be, not particularly unhappy, but just unmotivated, disorganized. What am I going to do? I've got to do something different.
So life's passing you by, you're kind of sitting on the sidelines, kind of watching it happen, and kind of going, right, what can I do to kind of change things up, make things different, and everything like that. What was it about kind of actually from a personal training or coaching or strength training point of view where you were like, actually, this might be the thing that helps me?
I think that the thing that I initially thought was I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to feel stronger. I wanted to improve my health. I had high blood pressure. I was having a lot of palpitations at the time, and I thought, I really need to just get myself doing something else that will have an impact on my health.
And looking back then, and we'll come on to kind of where you are now, thinking about yourself back then and getting stronger. What did you think that might entail for you?
I suppose I thought it might. I really don't think I had a good idea, but I think it meant that I would be able to, do just feel that I could, that I don't know, what did I think it would be like for me? I think I thought that I would be able to impact things such as my ability to do, I'm thinking of something really trivial, of opening jars. I could not open a jar.
Practical stuff.
And I just thought, so actually that sort of feeling of some upper body strength, and I was having real difficulty putting things up high and things. So there was some really clear functional things that I wanted to be better at.
So opening jars, not needing to ask for help for that, getting things up high, reaching, having the strength to put things up on shelves, everything like that. So just real practical, day-to-day, living your life kind of stuff, basically.
I did want to see a reduction in my blood pressure, although I wasn't overweight. I was at the top end of normal BMI, and I wanted to lose some weight, although that wasn't my primary concern. And I just wanted to be able to have more stamina and strength to do the things that I enjoy doing.
And those were very much kind of the things that we spoke about when you had your first consultation with me. Then those were kind of initial goals that you really I suppose, macro goals, but initial things that you wanted to concentrate on, which were from a bigger picture perspective, reducing your blood pressure. You've mentioned kind of a little bit of anxiety, health anxiety, and a reduction in that. You did talk about losing a little bit of weight, but as you say, it wasn't a primary concern of yours at all. But I do just remember you just saying, I just want to feel stronger. I just want to feel strong.
I think that was main. I wanted to feel stronger.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah. All of that in mind, and thinking back to kind of where you were, what are the biggest changes in yourself that you've noticed?
I think the biggest change is in my body. And yes, I've lost about 5 kilos, but it's not that so much as I feel straighter and broader, and I like the look of my body better than I have ever in my life.
Wow.
So I think that is definitely through the training.
So is that in terms of kind of building muscle and seeing a change in your body composition and everything like that?
Yeah.
Cool. And are there any
so
kind of
that would be, I've worn a bikini for the first time in 30 years. I just feel comfortable in my skin, and I just think that has obviously got huge impact on how I feel, my self-esteem and all those sorts of things, and confidence, because I just feel so much better.
amazing.
And I have no health anxiety at all.
You mentioned this the other week. Yeah, you mentioned this the other week. It kind of said it kind of suddenly dawned on you that you like hadn't had kind of an anxious thought from a health point of view for a while, and it's like it was just kind of, it was something that had stopped happening, but you hadn't necessarily noticed it had stopped happening until, I don't know, what kind of pricked your consciousness about it. But yeah, you mentioned it the other week, and I think that's amazing, because I don't think you can, if you have anxiety of any type, I don't think you necessarily recognize how draining that can be, just from an energy and a general well-being perspective. So not having any health anxiety kind of lurking in the back of your mind, or indeed at the front of your mind, but must be such a...
It really is. And I think the other thing that I've noticed that is huge is my energy levels. I really don't feel tired. I have so much more energy. Yeah, that's been enormous for me. I don't feel like, I don't have a malaise that I might have felt before. I don't just think, oh, I can't be bothered. Of course I get tired, but yeah, my energy levels are so much higher.
What do you put that down to? Because there's a few different things that we've done in terms of well, actually, I'm gonna let you kind of focus on the kind of the different things that we've done and the changes that we've made. But what do you put that kind of that shifting gear from an energy point of view down to?
I think it's doing exercise regularly, every day, even if I'm not in the gym. I'm walking or I'm cycling, and I make it part of my life. It's not like I go out every day specifically to do that, although it is integral. I think the way I eat, I'm very, very much more conscious about the way in which I eat. And the other thing is, that was one of my earliest goals, was always being ready for the day by 9 o'clock.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I am. It's just what I do now. And I think not sitting around half the morning wasting my time has actually given me more energy.
Yeah, I remember our initial conversation, and you would kind of, you talked me through your day, and I think you used the word kind of, or the phrase, I just seem to faff about for,
Definitely.
and time passes me by, and then it gets to 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I'm like, what have I done? And as it might sound like a bit of a strange goal to other people. But yeah, one of your very first goals was to be up and dressed and ready for the day. By was it night? It was
Yeah.
9 o'clock. You said, yeah, by 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Um, and I love how that's just kind of helping to get you more organised, has kind of giving you that energy that you then kind of carry on throughout the course of the day, rather than, as you say, getting into a little bit of a malaise. So how else has your kind of daily routine changed? Because your daily routine has changed, but I suppose your routine across the week has kind of changed as well.
Yes. Well, I suppose actually going to the gym 3 times a week, but also scheduling in exercise during every day. So if I'm not using the car or a bus to go places, using the bike or walking, making sure that I do a longer bike ride every week. And I guess for me, one of the most powerful things, which I now realize, is planning, and actually not just planning in the exercise bit. And then there's the other things that I've got, the voluntary work I do, but also my admin time, my time to do some reading or whatever it is, or to do some sewing, and planning my meals as well. So all of those have made a huge difference to how I live my week.
One thing you said right up front was that you felt like life was passing you by, and some of those things you were probably doing before anyway. But do you think the power of planning them in has made it feel more, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but more intentional, as opposed to them just kind of potentially happening and therefore maybe feeling a little bit more transient?
I think, yes, I think that's true. But I think for me, the power of planning for me has been that I not only can plan the week coming forwards on a Sunday, the week to come on a Sunday, but also I can reflect, because I've written it all down, on what's happened in the week gone by. And that is great, because actually I can think, okay, I suspect most weeks I don't achieve everything I think I'm going to, but actually I can reflect on that and think, okay, so how can I make that different this week coming? And for me, that's been incredibly powerful. And only takes about a quarter of an hour once a week.
I was going to ask you, how do you go about it? Because I think some people are kind of natural planners and others less so, and I suppose this is a bit of a skill that you've learned over the last year. So how do you go about it? What works for you?
What works for me is to have I've got a diary sort of thing. I put in everything that is fixed for the week initially, and then I plan the other things that I either need to do or would like to do around that, making sure that there's, sensible time spaces for everything. So planning the meals, always plan the meals at the weekend of the main meal every day, which is another thing that I think has changed enormously the way I eat, because all my meals now, I start with what is the protein in this meal? And because protein keeps me fuller longer.
And this was something that we
it's as simple as that.
Yeah, this is something that we worked on, because it was, having a look at what you have been eating, your protein levels were kind of lower, but I think so many people and so many women aren't necessarily eating enough protein anyway. But until you kind of have a look, analyze, and take a step back, you don't necessarily realize that. And so many women struggle to increase their protein intake. But you're saying what's worked for you is kind of taking that simple notion and concept of starting with that protein building block and going, what else am I going to have with this?
Yeah. And for me, that's and really, really, yeah, it's revolution. I felt I had a healthy diet beforehand, and I did, but it has enabled me to lose weight, and now to maintain a weight without ever feeling hungry. So what's not to like? And I've just incorporated foods that I've liked, but ate less frequently. So quite a lot of more fish, a little bit of chicken, and then quite a lot of pulses and grains and tofu and that kind of thing. It's not difficult now. It was difficult at first because it was changing something, but now it's easy.
How did you grasp hold of the
And
changes
I always
actually?
buy every week.
Sorry, say that
How
again,
did I
Caroline. It's
grasp
got
hold of
easier
them?
week by week.
Yeah, it's definitely got easier week by week because I've managed to see the foods that really, really help for me. So things like low-fat Greek yogurt, low-fat cottage cheese. I like them both. You can put them in anything, I've discovered. Eggs, all those kind of things. Just being mindful about what I eat. And if my protein intake looks low for a day, I make myself a protein shake with some protein powder. And yeah,
So you
I'm
supplement
loving
as and
it.
when, but for the most part, it's just eating kind of good, nutritious, whole foods that you actually recognise as ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, obviously being mindful at a lot of the time going for the lower fat sources of protein, but that's healthy anyway, I guess. So, yeah. I still do have some cheese.
Well, cheese is great. Love cheese. Love cheese. You've just reminded me. I've just been done the weekly shop, and every time I write the list, we do plan. I always forget to add cottage cheese, and you've just reminded me, just how much I like it, and it's like I should just have it as like that staple thing that is on the shopping list week in, week out. Do you do
Yeah.
that actually? Do you just have like your core things now, so you don't even need to think about, or you're thinking less about planning? You're just like, right, those are the things that I know are going to see me right for the week, and kind of tinker around that.
Yeah, I do. I have core foods that I buy every week now. And it is cottage cheese, low-fat Greek yogurt. Always have some tuna, tin tuna in the cupboard, salmon in the freezer, that kind of thing.
So you're kind of good to go with kind of those protein building blocks.
Mm.
So planning your week is a biggie. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
planning what you're having from a meal point of view, and having your staples from a
Yeah.
weekly shop point of view, and kind of having protein as a kind of a key building block for each of your
Yeah.
meals. Those are some habit changes that you have brought in
Yes.
and now kind of, I was going to say cementing, but I think they're pretty firmly cemented now. Are there any other kind of simple things or processes or habits that have helped you?
I think those are the main ones that help me, and putting exercise, using my forms of transport have changed. So I'm using my legs rather than a car or a bus. And so that's been a really big change, because actually that's an opportunity to exercise. And that's required some
Absolutely.
planning because it quite often takes a little bit longer, but I've got time. So
You factor
yeah,
that. So I love that your body is now a mode of transport as opposed to something
yeah,
that just kind of sits in a mode of transport. I love that.
yes,
I love
absolutely.
that. And you're right. It does take a little bit longer, but as you say, if you're kind of taking the time each week to kind of plan your week, you can plan that time in. Not each and every time necessarily, but you can plan that time in where it makes sense for you to get a little bit of non-exercise activity in, and that would have had a big impact actually on your kind of fat loss as well as changes to your diet, because I know from where you were previously to walking far more, getting the bike out far more, and everything like that, that would have had a big impact on fat loss as well. And I think kind of mental health,
Yeah,
clarity, all of those good things.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I sleep better, but I think that's probably because I'm less anxious. Um, and and I drink a lot less alcohol than I did, in that I don't drink unless I go out. So I never drink at home now.
Talk to me about that, Caroline, because that was actually, I was going to say addressing that, which makes it sound like there was some form of problem, which there was not. But addressing that kind of quite early on was one of the things that we focused on. So talk to me about the changes that you've made there and how you went about that. And why, I think, a little bit.
Why? Because I felt as though I would just have a glass of wine every evening, maybe sometimes two. But, it was not, it was something that I had become a negative habit.
Okay.
And I felt that needed breaking. Also, the thing that I noticed very early on was when I sort of put a rule in for myself not to drink at home at all, was I felt it was much easier to do the morning stuff then. Even though I'd never had a hangover, it wasn't a hangover, but actually I could jump out of bed. Yeah. And I've never been somebody to enjoy getting up early. But that's changed enormously, and it's partly that, and I think it's partly having more energy, better energy levels, but I think everything's interrelated.
100% is. I always think about these things as like little cogs, and there's always going to be one cog that is probably going to turn all of the others predominantly, but they are all interlinked and they do all kind of work together positively or indeed negatively. So that kind of glass of wine in the evening, maybe impacting your sleep a little bit as well, which then might mean the mornings are less productive and everything like that. So I think, very early on, the two habits that we focused on initially, there was a third as well, but that was reduction, cutting down alcohol in the evening, and you set yourself a limit for that. Being more productive in the mornings as well, and getting up and being dressed. And those two things, actually having them sit side by side, were kind of perfect for you because they were kind of symbiotic with each other, which was great. And then the third one that you had quite early on, again, which would have impacted your sleep, was reducing your screen time in the evening. Well, reducing your screen time overall, but also reducing your screen time in the evening as well. How has that changed?
That's changed. And in some ways, I think that's been the most difficult but what I have done is I have times that I'll do screen time. So rather than looking at it throughout the day or having a quick look on social media, I could read that article in the paper, I could do that game online, that kind of thing. It happens for half an hour after I get up in the morning. I do all those Wordle things, and then no more than an hour in the evening.
Plan the time for that as well.
In the morning, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
In the evening, it's usually when I stop doing other things, so that's a more variable time.
But you've set yourself a time limit,
and if it's my turn to look,
you're factoring it in. You're planning when you're doing that in the morning. Yeah. So I suppose it again kind of comes down to planning a little bit and kind of making time for it, but also having a bit of a reduction on the time you have for it as well.
And just not reverting to it as the first thing I'm going to do.
Rather than it just being a habitual default.
What am I going to do? I'll just start to look through Instagram for hours and hours on end.
Yeah. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to do.
Yeah, really.
You said right up front you didn't feel that the gym was for you because it was something that, and particularly strength training, it was something that men did. It was for younger people to do, everything like that. Kind of bearing that in mind, but also more generally, what shifts have you noticed in your mindset or attitude to kind of health and fitness and exercise in general?
I think that I just feel it's for anybody now. You know, it's definitely for me. I love it. I've become a person who gets out of bed to be at the gym at 7 a.m.
I know you have.
I
It's
could never
brilliant.
have.
I
But
think
it's,
even kind
I
of at the
think
beginning
that,
of the year, Caroline, as well. I don't think when I was initially setting up small group training and coaching, and I talked about the kind of the time sessions, and I said, oh, I'll be one at 6, one at 7, and you're like 7, 6. That's not going to happen. But progressively,
yeah,
you've kind of your times that you come have got earlier and earlier. And I think I don't know. For me, anyway, it just sets up the day absolutely brilliantly in terms of having all of the endorphins and happy vibes going.
absolutely. And I think I'd always thought, oh, I'm not the type of person who would do exercise in the morning because it'll make me tired for the rest of the day. I found it's the complete opposite. So I feel that rather than exercise being something that will wear me out, it's actually going to be something that makes me feel better about myself. Yes, you know, my body might feel a bit tired, but I feel great. And I yeah, I just love it. That's how
It's
it's
different
changed my
times, isn't
attitude
it?
towards exercises. I've gone from being someone who knew exercise was a good thing, did a little bit here and there, to someone who thinks, right, I need to do something every day. I want to. And so I suppose that I just feel that it's had such a positive impact on my life, that I couldn't, yeah, and don't think I could go back now. Oh,
You
yeah,
do come in
I know there'll be
bouncing,
ups and downs. Pardon?
100%. And that's life. But on the whole, you come in bouncing to every session.
Yeah,
And
I've never not wanted to come to this.
I knew there'd been a bit of a kind of a gear shift in you when you were like, yeah, this is for me. Is when you came into training session with lifting hooks,
Oh, yeah.
which I absolutely loved. I was like, oh, Caroline means business today. Brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so it is for anybody. If you have a body, it's for you.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is. It
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
is.
Absolutely.
And what are some of the things that you've kind of achieved that you've done over the last year that have surprised you and might surprise others, or that you didn't necessarily expect yourself to be doing? So I asked you up front, what did you think that training might be like? What are some of the things that you're doing that you're just like, I didn't think I'd necessarily ever be doing that?
I think I certainly didn't think that I would lift my body weight,
No,
uh,
that was
deadlift my body
quite a
weight
special moment,
on
Caroline.
my 63rd birthday.
That
It
was
just
quite a
felt
moment.
so empowering that I could do that. So the weight, I never thought I could, and I love doing it. There's something very, very empowering about feeling your body getting stronger and being able to lift weights.
Yeah, there's something,
So
and I think the way that we approach it as all trainers and all programming works is through progressive overload, and you being able to kind of physically and mentally kind of see the changes in terms of, oh yeah, initially this is what I was doing and now I'm doing this instead. Although I do have to sometimes remind you of where you were kind of a year ago, and you're like, oh my god, yes, wow. Yeah, it's very, very cool, very, very cool to see.
and I think that sort of, again, that reflecting back, thinking, where was I a year ago? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I also think that for me, actually, the working in a small group has been very powerful because it suits my personality to be in a group of people. And so I really enjoy that. I really enjoy seeing other people's successes and other people encouraging me. So there's lots and lots of benefits for me. So that, yeah. And, I even enjoy the conditioning bits of the sessions now.
It is a lovely little vibe, but we have to find somebody to knock you off your wall sit queen perch, which I don't know if we'll ever manage to do that. I think I'll probably have to be like stood on your lap in order for you to crumble at some point in time, because it is quite phenomenal.
Yeah, the weights, I've certainly felt the weights after last Friday's session.
I'm just going to keep piling them up on you, Caroline, until I at least see those thighs start to kind of quake a little bit. We're just going to keep piling those weights up on you. Are there any other kind of things that you've applied or that you've done that have really kind of helped you on your journey? Those could be like little mental hacks, things that you kind of think about, conversations that you might have in your head, things that you think about. Because as you said, you know, from a training point of view, we all have ups and downs. There are peaks and troughs. There are days that are less appealing, like today is probably not your ideal get out on your bike kind of weather. But, the consistency is something that we talk about a lot in terms of taking those consistent steps forward. So are there any, what has helped you kind of keep moving on? Because you are so consistent in your approach.
One of the things that you've I think one of the things that you introduced, the idea of a month or two ago, the idea of an alter ego, the person you would like to be in 12 months' time. And mine's Fabienne.
Yeah.
And a number of times when I've been looking at the weather on a day like today, I've asked the question, what would Fabienne do? What would Fabienne say? And the answer always comes back, just do it. Just do it. Stop prevaricating and do it. And, some days there's quite a little argument between me and Fabienne going on in my head, but more often than not, Fabienne wins out.
Is it in your head?
So for me, that's a really powerful
hack. A little conversation with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's really powerful hack for me to actually, and I didn't think it would be necessarily, but actually to think into the future and think, do it. Just do it.
So Caroline, aka Fabienne, who is what's her next 12? What's for her in the next 12 months? Are there any kind of new challenges or goals that you want to set? I'm going to use this as a monthly catch-up consultation session.
I think the thing in the next 12 months, and I want to become the kind of person who will just, do an exercise session on their own. And just, it's not, just get on with it. Always be there. Always be ready to do my exercise session. Yeah, up for it, organised in everything I do. But I think that thing of being that person who, obviously I've done an exercise session today. I wouldn't not. And that's the person I want to be in 12 months' time.
And I love that. You just get it done. Just get it done. 6 a.m. We can go 5:30.
If I develop insomnia, maybe, but not.
Just get it done early doors. You mentioned, not being able to put things up on shelves or finding that more challenging, and kind of jar opening and everything like that. What are the things in your day-to-day that are just a bit easier now?
Or opening jars. But
does Rudy pass the jars now?
That really doesn't have to open my jars anymore. So, as I'd always said, the only reason for living with a man was somebody to open the jars. His time might be limited.
So sorry.
I think he's quite safe after 35 years, but and I suppose it's being, just feeling like, I can do it. It's not going to stop me. I feel strong to do stuff. Moving the rubbish around, anything. I don't, I feel so much stronger.
How was it
And lots
with
more
those
stamina.
head movements? So, sorry, say that again, Caroline.
And I've got loads more stamina
Yeah,
because
so
I'm
you went
stronger, I think.
to you had, I can't remember when it was now.
At the
Was
end
it
of April.
April? You went on a cycling holiday. How was that?
It was amazing. I hadn't, it was in the mountains. And so it was quite hilly, and I hadn't been cycling much before because of the weather, which was a pathetic excuse, but I hadn't been, and it was
If
fine. It
Fabienne had
was
been around, you would have
absolutely
been
fine.
over,
I'm sure. Yeah, she would have been, but she didn't come along till afterwards. So that was, but I had the strength to do it. And that's
I
really,
suppose things you take for granted, or
yeah,
you're able to do things, and it's like retrospectively when you're thinking about it, you kind of go, "Oh gosh, that was
yes.
more straightforward than it could have been, or that I'd experienced before," and everything like that.
Yeah, all those things. It just feels, I just feel like I can do more.
And if there were we've talked about this before at the end of the session, if there were like three things that you've kind of learned over the last year that you will kind of apply forevermore, what would they be? Like if you were to give kind of women in a similar position, or women who were you 12 months ago, three things to focus on or to think about, what would they be?
For me, I think they would be, I will do strength training now for the rest of my life in some form, because I can so much see both the physical and mental health benefits, and also, just upping cardiovascular training as well and things. Planning for me has been enormous. So strength training, planning, and I think the other thing that I will continue doing is the way in which I eating protein.
And that's something that you're kind of not even really needing to think about anymore. It's just happening as kind of quite naturally. It's just how you eat. How you eat now is how you eat now. And I always say to people, you're not on a diet. Your diet is just XYZ. That is how you eat now. Over the last year, we've kind of worked out what works for you without having the rigidity of a meal plan that you can follow for a short period of time and then can't follow because life. And you've worked out what works for you, and you can just keep going with that now forevermore.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if I was going to say to anybody who was considering, women in midlife, if they were considering doing personal training or having a trainer, is just do it. Just do it. It's the best investment I've made. And it's not, it is, I think the thing that surprised me is how it's, and this, I'm going to say it, it's changed my life.
Bless you.
I have changed the way I live my life. I've taken control of my life. I've taken it by the scruff of its neck, and I'm living it in the way that I want to. And so, for me, it's been really powerful. And I think any woman will get benefit from doing this.
I love that. You grabbed life by the scruff of the neck, getting on with it. It's not passing you by. It's not passing you by at all.
Not at all.
It's not about what other people notice or what other people think, but have like friends and family kind of noticed a change in you?
Well, the only comment that I've had very clearly was a friend said, "Yeah, my husband and I were discussing your biceps."
To be fair, they are pretty magnificent, Caroline.
But I don't think I even noticed I had them before.
It's like, because June
So now I'm
wearing
wearing.
like this the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. I walk around like this and wear sleeveless tops all the time, which will look very, very silly. Which will look very silly in November, but there you go.
We'll deal with that in November. For now, it's fine. Well, it's been an absolute honour to kind of be on the journey with you over the last 12 months, and so I kind of see the changes, because I think when we started working together initially, it was, as you say, in your head it'll be for a kind of a short period of time. We started off with one session a week, in part because that's kind of what you felt comfortable with, and I didn't want to overload you with stuff. But over time, those sessions have built up to where you're now coming 3 times a week, and you keep popping up at 7 a.m, which means I never get a lie-in now, which is great. But it's just absolutely brilliant to see. But also, just the way that the journey that you've been on, how that positively rubs off on other people in the small group sessions as well. Because, if there are people who are finding certain movements challenging, you are always the first to kind of pop up and kind of go, wow, when I started, this is where I was. And they'll look and kind of go, really? So yeah, it's brilliant. It's been an absolute honour to kind of be on that journey with you. But yeah, if you, as you say, if you were to kind of advise other kind of midlife and older women in terms of getting on their own kind of fitness journey, as you've said, it's like strength training. Just do it. Plan the hell out of everything, because as soon as you start planning everything, then you create the space for things that you want to do, and everything seems that much more controllable. And up your protein.
Yeah,
it's harder initially,
for me,
it gets easier.
And it does get easier, because I remember when you first introduced the idea of more protein, I was thinking, I can't do it.
It feels really hard. It feels really hard at first. It absolutely does feel really hard at first. And we spent a long time kind of going through what are the different protein sources that you would actually enjoy eating and bringing into your diet more, and everything like that. And like slowly but surely, you've introduced more and more and more, to the point where it just feels quite natural now. As opposed to me saying, Caroline, this is your meal plan for the week, and this is all the protein that you've got to eat. That would have just had you probably digging your heels in. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Caroline. It is, we are sat in a cloud, so would Fabienne tell you to get on your bike, or would she suggest that you just kind of sit down and watch the Olympics?
No, I think I've got to get on my bike, because I've got to go to Hove, so I think...
Be safe. The roads are a bit slippery, be careful. Is it not? Well, have a cracking rest of the day. Thank you ever so much. And I will see you tomorrow at 7. Bye. Take care, Caroline. See you later.